Hey guys, hey, welcome back. Welcome to the most recent installment of Learning Algebra with Mr. Bauman in Mr. Bauman's basement. How about that? A little bit different scenery. Got the pool table right behind us. But the greatest addition to this this version of Learning Math with Mr. Bauman in Mr. Bauman's basement is the wonderful, the one and only Miss Annie Bauman, soon to be almost done with her freshman year of high school, and she is here to assist and help us out with this very exciting lesson today, the quadratic formula. We finally got to it. How about that? So welcome, and thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're quite welcome. Does it feel like a studio down here, or is it still just feel like basement?
It's basement.
Yeah. This is a little bit different. I know this is your second round, right?
Yeah.
This is Annie help with the algebra lesson part 2, and a little bit different space and a little bit different lesson. But thanks for joining us. Yeah. It's a little bit different from what we normally do down here. What's some common things that we do down here?
Foosball.
Foosball. Who just recently won the game of foosball just yesterday, right?
Yeah, it was pretty great.
It was amazing. It's a close game, 9-9, and then the wicked spin on the foosball scored the winning goal for this lady. So congratulations on that.
Thanks.
And welcome to the latest installment of Learning Math with Mr. Bauman in Mr. Bauman's basement. Should we just call it for you? Should we just call it "I'm going downstairs to learn math with Dad"?
Yeah.
Yeah. Would that be a better title for you? All right. So we got all of our supplies.
Yeah.
Annie's got her graphing calculator because we're going to be needing that. You also will need a calculator. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that. Your notebook definitely, and a pencil. And I've got my board, my marker, the magical eraser. It's magical.
Magic.
And no good math lesson is complete without the somewhat lukewarm cup of Joe.
Cup of Joe.
Cup of Joe. We should do English accent the whole time.
No.
No, let's not do that. So, here we go. You want to do the sip of the coffee? You want to practice? See how you do. Ready?
I got my drink too.
Ready? Goes up, and then it's a swoop back down. It's a sip, and then you swoop the chin. That's pretty good. I'd give that like a I don't know, maybe like a B plus.
Okay.
B plus, is it acceptable?
Yeah.
All right.
Passing. It's okay.
Pass. And we'll practice, I'm sure, a little bit more. So let's jump right into it. You finally made it to the end of Chapter 9. This is the last official section of Chapter 9, solving quadratics using everyone's favorite, the quadratic formula. We've been talking about it a lot, and we're finally here. If at any point you need to pause the video because I'm moving a little bit too fast, please do so. So I went ahead, the title is basically the objective as well. I went ahead and kind of numbered all the different ways that you now know how to solve a quadratic. And I believe, you're like Mike Wazowski, getting covered with the board. I believe all of these we've done here at home with e-learning. One of the first lessons you had on YouTube was graphing the parabola and trying to figure out where it crosses.
I did that one.
Yeah, you were on that video, yeah. And it's where it crosses the x-axis, right? We, in one of the most recent videos, looked at just using square roots if it doesn't have a b in it. Very recently, we factored to solve these. And then just in the last video, we did completing the square. We finally have what I believe to be the last method that you guys are going to learn this year. And Annie's here to kind of vouch for this statement. Will you look at all 5 of these next year? Or will they look at all 5 of these next year?
Yeah. You don't look at square roots a whole lot.
Yeah.
I don't think, but yeah.
So in your opinion, Annie, you're almost done with Algebra 1 honors. Mm-hmm. You're in the last couple weeks here. Of these 5, which one is your favorite and why?
Quadratic formula, because it's easy.
It's easy? Do you think it's a good idea to teach them the quadratic formula last as opposed to first? How come, do you think? If I gave them the easy way first, what would happen towards the end?
Then you just lose interest, and then you're like, No.
A little tricky, a little tricky. I didn't try to like deceive you, but I would agree with Annie's statement. I think the quadratic formula is the easiest. You know why? Because it can be used all the time. Any quadratic that I throw your way, you should be able to use the quadratic formula. No knock against any of these. These are all great methods, but I think the quadratic formula, I think you're really going to like it. So we're going to jump right into it. And Annie, again, is here to assist. And I'm just gonna jump right into the quadratic formula and talk about the different parts. So in your notes, if you want to label this quadratic formula, and it's definitely going to be equal to x. Why, Annie?
Because you're trying to find the points where it crosses on the x-axis.
Perfect. Very good. So it is x equals the opposite of b. Some people say negative b. It's a little deceiving because it's not always going to be a negative number at the beginning. So I say the opposite of b plus or minus, which means a lot of the time there's going to be how many solutions? 2. That's right. You're going to use the plus sign and the minus sign. We talked about that in one of the most recent videos. Plus or minus the square root or radical b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Oh my gosh, you finally made it. Congratulations, pat on the back. If you need to pause the video, I'll hold this up for about another 3 seconds. Pause the video if you need to. X is equal to the opposite of b plus or minus the square root or radical b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Annie's got a video she's going to show us towards the end of this video that her and her friends put together in their freshman algebra class, and excited to show that to you towards the end of our video here today. But some interesting things that I want to point out, and I'm going to ask Annie here. If I circle, and if you have a different color, this is the only color marker I have here, but if you have a different color, it may be a good idea to go ahead and take that out. Pause the video if you need to. I circled this. This is the opposite of b over 2a. There's this in particular. No, you cannot talk in the English accent the whole video.
All right.
It's quite all right, you say. But I circled this one for a particular reason. Opposite of b over 2a, that should sound familiar to you from about a month ago. One of our first videos, I think it was the one that Annie was here to help out with. This expression that I circled actually represents what, Annie?
The x-coordinate of the vertex.
That's right. It's the x-coordinate of the vertex. So when we graphed a parabola, say it looked like that, the vertex would be the lowest point on this one, and this opposite of b over 2a is the x value for that vertex, which by default, it's also this vertical line that cuts the parabola in half, which we called the axis of
symmetry.
That's right, the axis of symmetry. Very good. So that's one thing I wanted to point out. And some of you may have noticed the other kind of unique part of the quadratic formula, and it is right there. Underneath the radical sign, we have b squared minus 4ac. Now, this actually we looked at when we were together back in school, so that was like, what, 6 weeks ago?
Yeah.
This is actually called the
discriminant.
This is the discriminant, right? We talked about the discriminant when we were factoring. This is going to come back into play. This number, this b squared minus 4ac, is going to tell us how many solutions we're going to have. It might cross the x-axis twice, then there would be 2 solutions. It might be resting right on the x-axis or kind of dangling from the x-axis, then there'd only be 1 solution, or it might never cross the x-axis, then there would be no real solution. So that's what we're going to talk about right now. So that's the quadratic formula. We're going to be using it a lot here today. Like most of these videos, this is really 2 lessons kind of jammed into one video. Jam. That's a fun word.
Yeah.
Like strawberry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like a jam session. But jam is... Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
you gotta live with these bad jokes, but let's talk about the discriminant.
All right.
Okay, let's talk about the discriminant. So, b squared minus 4ac. If b squared minus 4ac is positive, I'm just going to abbreviate there. So if b squared minus 4ac is positive, so underneath that square root symbol, we get a positive number. Annie, are you still awake?
Yeah.
How many solutions, how many real solutions are there going to be if the discriminant is positive?
Two.
That's right. There are two real solutions. Why do I use the word real? Because in Algebra 2, you're going to start looking at not real numbers, which they call imaginary numbers.
Whoa.
Yeah, kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
If b squared minus 4ac is 0, and we're going to look at one that this happens. If b squared minus 4ac is 0, so Annie, underneath that square root symbol, the radical, if we take the square root of 0, we get what?
0.
We get 0, which means plus or minus 0. It doesn't matter, so there's only going to be
one solution.
one real solution. Please make sure you also get this in your notes. Hopefully you highlighted the quadratic formula, because that's obviously a big deal in this section. You need to highlight, please, these two statements as well. If the discriminant is positive, there's two real solutions. If the discriminant is 0, there's one real solution. What are we missing, Annie?
If b squared minus 4ac is negative, then you would get no solution.
Very good. If the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, is negative, can you take the square root of a negative? No. You can't. You can, but you get what kind of number?
An error.
You get an error message on your calculator, that's right. And you get an imaginary number, which you're going to look at in Algebra Part 2. B squared minus 4ac is negative, then there are no real solutions. So, again, if you could... I almost hit you.
No.
B squared minus 4ac is negative, then there are no real solutions. If you can get that in your notes, put a star next to it, circle it, highlight it, do whatever you need to do to make sure that you know that this is important. One of the first questions on your homework assignment, I'm going to be asking you how many solutions, not what are the solutions, but how many solutions are there. And all you simply have to do is calculate the discriminant. See if it's positive, negative, or 0. All right, we ready to jump into this? Let's do it. So let's practice what we just talked about. How many solutions? We'll call this example 1. How many solutions for the quadratic x squared minus 8 equals 2x? Could we factor it? Yeah, we could. First we have to put it into standard form.
Yeah.
We have to put it into standard form. So, B and Ann, how would we get this quadratic, one more time, pause the video if you need to, how do we get this into standard form? How can we get 0 over here?
You would subtract 2x on both sides.
Boom. Subtract 2x on both sides. It's kind of like the teeter-totter from 7th grade. You can't teeter without...
Tottering!
That's right, you can't teeter. Tots. Those sound good right now.
Let's do something.
Yeah, I could go for a plate of tots right now. Some ketchup.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lightly salted. Yeah. Yeah, it does. So there we go, in standard form. That's step 1. Some of the quadratics you're going to look at tonight will already be in standard form. If it's not in standard form, get it into standard form. All right? Now, the question was, how many solutions are there? So really the only thing we need to calculate from here is the...
Discriminant.
That's right, the discriminant. Very good. So that is b squared minus 4ac. All right? I'm going to let you go ahead and jump into that. You guys work yours out. Pause the video if you need to. And we'll come back together in like 30 seconds. And we'll see what you guys came up with. Yeah, it's still on.
Okay.
And you square negative, you always get a good. And a negative times a positive sign. Good, good. Awesome. All right, unpause. Unpause. We got a discriminant of 36. 36. That's a positive number, so there are
Two solutions.
There are two real solutions. That's right. Yep, there are two real solutions. Now, part B of this question, now that we know that there's two, let's go ahead and use the quadratic formula to figure out what are those two solutions. So if you maybe just try to squeeze it on this side of the board, like put a line right there, and we'll go quadratic formula is equal to what letter? It's equal to x, that's right. So we'll go x equals, if you can go ahead and write out the quadratic formula form one more time. So opposite of b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac, which actually we just calculated, all over 2a. All right, now let's really at this point it's just plugging in numbers. If you want to, underneath your standard form, I know we did this back in the classroom, label what your A is, label what your B is, label what your C is. You can erase that. Here, you can use this eraser. So it's x equals, all right?
Oh, and then I wrote that.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I wrote it wrong place.
No, you're good. So go ahead and pause the video. Take probably about 1 minute. We know there's going to be two solutions. And you actually already calculated the discriminant. All right, so opposite of b. We already know that underneath that is good. All over. Good. All right, unpause. So she's getting near the end. So she's got 2 plus or minus radical 36 all over 2. Well, there's two solutions. So the numerator, you're going to see her board here in just a second, is 2 plus 6 over 2, or, what was it, 2 minus 6 all over 2. So the first one's going to be 2 and 6 is 8, over 2 is 4, or you could say and 2. 2 minus 6, that's negative 4 over positive 2 is negative 2. So our two solutions, and this is the work that I would be looking for on your paper that you're then going to take a picture of and insert the picture in the Google Doc. These are your two solutions, positive 4 or negative 2. If we had graphed this, this would be a right side up parabola. How do we know that? The leading coefficient was, I'm trying to read backwards here, the leading coefficient was positive, so it's going to be a kind of a bowl shape, and it would cross the x-axis at these 2 points right here, positive 4, negative 2. Little hint, kind of foreshadowing to next year. If you can hold up your graphing calculator. Yeah, this, you don't have to graph it, just kind of hold up the calculator. This bad boy right there, it's, I don't know, gosh, what did we spend on it? Like $100?
Yeah,
somewhere around there. But you can tell it has a lot more functions on it. One of the things you can do kind of up here is enter the equation, beep, 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 and you kind of tell it to graph it for you, and it'll graph the parabola for you, and then it'll actually show you where it crosses the x-axis as well. Your teacher next year will still require work, just like 8th grade, still requires work, but you're kind of moving into that next phase of algebra where you can start to use a graphing calculator to kind of show you some other really cool things. So she kind of plays around with that and might get to the point where she can show you what the, what was it, 4 and negative 2?
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. You can see that it truly was a parabola that's right side up and crosses at 4 and negative 2. Good, thank you. All right, let's take a little break. You thirsty?
No, I'm not.
Gosh, I am. You sure?
Why not?
All right, let's work on the form. You ready? So you don't sip yet. It's like it's kind of like, hey, great
Cheers.
job so far. Cheers. Here, clink. Dink. Then you swoop back to the mouth. Little sip. Then swoop forward. Good. That's really good. Man, you are getting the hang of it. I'd give that like a somewhere like roughly in between like the A and A minus.
Okay.
Yeah. So the great improvement. Where's my marker? Thank you. All right. Let's move on to a different quadratic. Let's try example 2. Let's the directions tonight will just say simply solve. Solve using the quadratic formula. Let's try 4x squared plus 7x minus 15 equals 0. Okay? So quadratic formula, you don't have to write it out again, but let's just start plugging in values. So I'm going to go ahead and, just for their sake, I'm going to label A, B, and C. So I would strongly suggest tonight, notice it was already in standard form, so we didn't have to do that. You might have to do that tonight. It might be given for you. Let's start plugging in A, B, and C. And we'll see what you come up with. There might be 2 solutions, there might be 1, there might be 0. So go ahead and pause the video. We'll be back with you in like 1 minute. All over 2 times A. Good. All right. Let's kind of work down. It should shrink, and then we might have to use this space over here. Okay, so x equals -7 plus or minus, so we got square root 49. This is a negative times a positive times a negative, so it's positive. Good. So then you use your calculator. Have your calculator. So 4 and 4, 4 times 4 is 16.
240.
240. All over 8.
Yeah.
Right? Good. All right. You make sure you follow the order of operations. So you got to do underneath the square root symbol first. So she's got what, 49 plus 240. So you're going to rewrite the -7 plus or minus. Probably going to be 2 solutions here. Not probably, it is, right? Because we're getting a positive number underneath the radical symbol. 289. 289, definitely positive, so there's going to be 2 solutions. One's going to use the plus sign, one's going to use the minus sign. That might actually be a perfect square. She's got her calculator out. Feel free to use yours at this point. I need to see you work tonight, but feel free to use your calculator. Was it a perfect square?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's exciting. So this is -7 plus or minus, I don't even know what the root is.
17.
17. -7 plus or minus 17. All over 8. Do the top, then divide by 8. So let's do the plus sign first. -7 plus 17, that's 10. 10 over 8, but always reduce your fractions. 10 over 8 would be what? 5 over 4, right? That's right, I think. Yep.
Yeah.
And then the other one, -7 minus 17, that'd be -24 over 8, which is negative over positive is obviously a negative. It'd be -3. Good. So if you hold up your work so they can kind of get a glimpse of what they're going to be doing tonight. And tonight, honestly, guys, I think there's only like 5 or 6 problems. If we were still in school for this assignment of what last year there's like 20, 25, but because I'm not there to kind of walk you through, help you out in study hall, so on and so forth, I've cut it down to like 5 or 6 problems. So please make sure you show work. If you don't show work, I can't give you credit. Make sure you show work. But box in or circle your 2 solutions. All right, let's try one. Thank you, Annie. Let's try one that's a little bit different. If you could erase what you have there. You thirsty now?
No, I'm good.
You good?
Yeah.
I can smell dinner. It smells really
Yeah,
good. Honestly, because when we first came down here, you know what it smells like?
Tacos.
Well, now it does. When we first came down here,
Dirty basement?
I was going to say basement.
Okay.
It smells like basement, yeah. I don't know if dirty, it's just
basement.
Yeah, just basement. I don't know, it kind of smells like
Cold.
pool table. I think like the leather from the pockets, maybe.
Smell it.
Have you ever smelled a pool table?
No, I have not. It smells not bad.
It smells like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We should play a game after we're done.
Yeah.
Or foosball. One of the two. I'm going to take a drink. Swoop. Back. Drink. Then it's a swoop with the chin. You got to really, highlight. Good. Yeah, good. All right. We're almost there. You smell that? It's not the
tacos.
It's not the taco. Well, it is the tacos, but it also kind of smells like the end of the lesson. I think we're getting close. So we're down to like maybe 3 problems, 3 or 4. All right. I've kind of lost track, so I'm just going to call this EX for example. Same directions. We're going to solve. We're going to go x squared minus 6x plus 9 equals 0. All right. Go ahead and get that down in your notes. We're going to rock and roll through the quadratic formula again. I think you're starting to pick up because we've done it twice now. This definitely takes less time than graphing. Annie's shaking her head like, yeah, no kidding. Tell me about it. Because you've graphed a lot this year.
Yeah.
Now, before we solve this, let's get some input from someone that's in the position that you guys are going to be next year. In your opinion, you got any advice for these guys when it comes to solving quadratics?
When given a choice, don't graph.
Don't graph. How come? In your
Takes
expert
forever, and then we get something wrong, you have to redo it, and it's just a lot of work. Just do the quadratic formula.
So you should are you saying then, if I'm hearing you right, that you should get the same thing if you use the quadratic formula?
Just faster.
Faster. Okay. Do you think time is there? Do you feel like there's less time in high school to get stuff done than you had in grade school?
Time is money.
Time is money. Wow. Okay. You're a profitable business that I wasn't aware of.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're saying to free up time, your suggestion is to use the quadratic formula. All right. You all right?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, good. So let's try it. Let's put this into practice. You want to do it again?
Sure.
All right. Cool. There you go. There's the marker. If you need the magical eraser, let me know. So let's start cranking this out. Again, pause the video. We're looking at like maybe a minute. I know you guys are newer to this than we are, so it might take you a little bit longer, maybe 2 or 3 minutes. But with only 5 or 6 problems, you're looking at 30 minutes tops. 30 minutes tops, probably a little bit less, to be quite honest. All right, so this is equal to x. You just forgot your x there. Looking good so far. So opposite of b, if you need to label your a, b, and c, the opposite of b would be positive 6. Plus or minus, again, underneath the square root symbol is the discriminant, b squared. Just checking your work, minus 4 times a times c. It's looking good. All over 4 times 1. Yeah, you got an extra number in there.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know where that guy came from. All right, I'm going to pause you right there,
Okay.
B and Ann. Can I show them the camera just so they are able to follow along? So she did the opposite of B. That's positive 6. Because remember, whatever symbol's in front of a number goes with that number. So B is negative 6. So the opposite is positive 6. Plus or minus, so you might be using both of those symbols. The square root of B squared. You write a little bit smaller. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So that's negative 6 squared. She got 36. Minus 4 times A. A is 1. Times C. C is 9. Oh my goodness. Oh my stars.
Oh my gravy.
Good gravy. Good gravy. We got 36 here. Minus... That's amazing. Math is amazing. You're getting really, really good at algebra. You know, I think we should have named, your middle name should have been Algebra. Annie Algebra Bauman. Yeah.
It doesn't have a ring to it.
Then your initials would be AB.
No.
No?
No.
You'd rather not?
No.
So, but 36 minus 36, that's 0.
Yeah.
So the square root of 0 is...
0.
How many solutions then?
1.
Only 1. Even though we have a plus and minus here, adding 0 and subtracting 0 doesn't matter. So there's... Yeah, so you're only going to get one solution. So unpause Annie here. So we got 6 plus or minus 0 all over what? 4? So there's only one solution. The solution is 6 over 4. Reduce your fractions though. 6 over 4 is 3 over 2. That is the one. And that's right. X-intercept, which we also call the solution, which we also call the root, which we actually also called the 0, for all reasons we've talked about in previous videos.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. We're getting close. If you want to erase just from...
You can erase it.
Oh yeah, I got the magical eraser here. I just don't want to draw on you. It's a nice shirt you got.
Shirt.
I know. I love the color. It's a cool color. From the Yellowstone National Park. We're almost there. Same directions. Let's solve x squared minus 6x. It is smelling really good. I'm getting really hungry. I wonder, I hope the video doesn't pick up my stomach growling because I'm getting really hungry. Oh, I forgot to show. X squared minus 6x plus 11 equals 0. Again, this is in standard form. No reason for you to do anything to get it into standard form for this one because it already is. I'm going to go ahead and label A, B, and C just so you guys can start to get in the habit of doing that. Believe me when I tell you, believe Annie when she tells you, you're going to solve a lot of quadratics next year.
It's a lot.
As she starts to plug in the numbers here, I can tell you, because I've been working with Annie, both last year as an 8th grader and also this year as a 9th grader, and you were on quadratics back in like February?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're about 2 chapters ahead of us, which should be expected. They're in an honors class, but in working with her with chapter 9 that you guys are on now, it was really heavy on quadratics. So that's why I'm really trying to be as informative as I can with these videos. All right, so she's got about step 1 done here. So the opposite of b is 6 plus or minus b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. Looking good. So she's got 36 minus 44. Yeah-oh. We get a negative underneath the radical symbol, right? Because 36 minus 44 puts you in the negatives. Can you take the square root of a negative? Try it. Try it on your calculator. Go ahead. I dare you. If we do the square root of, what would that be? Negative 8, right? It should give you, Annie,
An error. Non-real ants.
an error. Yeah, I haven't looked at your graphing calculator with an error message in a long time. Non-real ants. Not as in like who's married to your uncle or the little creatures crawling on the ground. We're talking abbreviation for answer.
Yeah.
Non-real ants. Which means at that point you can just stop because there is no real number. You can literally just stop and say there are no real solutions. When you get to Algebra 2, which will be some of you next year, you'll get to imaginary numbers. Those of you that are in Algebra 1 next year, you'll eventually get to Algebra 2, probably your sophomore or junior year. So at this point, when you get a negative underneath the radical symbol, the discriminant is negative, you can just simply put no real solution. So again, this is the work that I'd be looking for on your paper that you're going to take a picture of, insert it into the Google Doc, and then just in the answer blank put no real solution. Great, thank you. All right. This next one, I'm going to just start the problem for you, but I'm trying to cut the length of this video a little bit, so we're not going to go through the whole quadratic formula again, but I do want you to know that you might see something like this on your assignment. Is this still a quadratic?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, because the highest degree is 2. That's right, the highest degree is 2. So we can still use the quadratic formula, but when we go to start plugging in values here, the one thing I do want to point out with this problem There's our quadratic formula. The one thing I do want to point out with this problem is A is 1, B is 2. What would be the value of C here?
0.
It's 0. That's right. So when you go to plug in the value of C here, it's just 0, which is going to make this whole thing right here. I'm trying to write backwards and not really seeing it. That would make this whole thing right here just 0. And that's okay. There may not be a C term, and that's okay. But we'll let you solve that one. Something similar to that possibly on the Google Doc. I'm a little parched. Are you thirsty?
No.
Oh gosh. Well,
Like a camel.
yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are. So if you need to grab a quick drink, nothing beats I mean, few things top a good quadratic formula lesson, especially with an amazing daughter like
Me.
Annie. But a good lukewarm, not super hot, and definitely not cold. Cold coffee is okay, but lukewarm coffee really it's just fuel for the brain. So, let's talk story problem.
My favorite.
Everyone's favorite. So the good old story problem. Why do we even need to know this? We could sit here all day long and talk about curves in real life that are parabolic, that kind of go like this, or right side up like this. So the one that I want to focus on today, because again I'm trying to keep this video shorter, is more of like sports, or going outside and like getting some exercise. You throw a ball, you kick a ball, whatever. Anytime something is projected into the air, a rocket, well, what you take a watermelon and you throw it out your window.
Okay.
Why not? And it kind of makes this kind of motion. It's parabolic. So let's suppose Annie and I went outside and we were kicking the football or kicking the kickball or whatever, and we decide to kick a ball. And you have to excuse me, I'm definitely not an artist, but if this was this is Annie,
Oh man.
your nice flowing locks of hair, and let's kick the football. That looks like what is that?
It's not a football.
That is you kick the football.
Okay.
And it goes up and then it comes back down, and I'll draw the black grass here. So there's Annie. She just kicked the football. It looks like a potato, and she kicked it, and it goes up. It hits its vertex. If you want to talk some algebra terms here, hits its vertex, and then naturally, because gravity takes over, it comes back down and hits the earth. What you're going to be doing tonight is figuring out this distance right here. How far from her did the ball land? I could ask you to find the maximum height, but I didn't. Okay? So that's kind of the setup of this problem. This parabola follows a quadratic, and that's what I want to give you now, which we're going to plug it into the quadratic formula and quickly try to solve it, because we want to make sure we leave enough time to watch Annie's video. So it follows this parabolic. Oh, and by the way, I already erased the picture. Let me show you the quadratic, and then I'll explain why this particular number is what it is. So here's our quadratic. Let me label A, B is 1, C. All right, pause the video if you need to. I'm not going to get into the specifics about what this number is. For now, we're just going to call it A. This kind of gets into some physics, which most of you will be taking in high school. Because the leading coefficient is negative, we have that upside down parabola, like that. It looks like a mountain or a hill, because this is negative. B is 1. But let's talk about C. Why is C not 0? If I redraw Annie's picture, and the ground was down here and her foot is kind of bent up like that, and there's the football, there's the potato right there. Why do you suppose this is 1.5 and not 0? Why do you suppose it's 1.5 and not 0?
Because I'm kicking it up.
You're kicking it up, that's true. You're kicking it up. But is the ball currently on the ground?
No.
No. How far above the ground is the ball?
1.5 somethings.
Yeah, probably feet.
Yeah.
1.5 feet. So when she goes to like punt the ball, it's 1.5 feet above the ground. That's why this number is what it is. All right. So let's quickly try to plug this into the quadratic formula. Gosh, I don't know if we have enough space here, but we're gonna try. So can you be my calculator person, and I'll be the writer, just so we kind of like teamwork here. So I have opposite of b plus or minus b squared. That's 1 squared minus 4 times a. So that's where the funky fraction comes into play. Times c. So I need you on a calculator to do negative 4 times negative 0.004 times 1.5. Perfect. All over, I need that number, 2 times a. So let me show them the board. So step 1, I simply just plugged in a, b, and c into the quadratic formula. So opposite of b, plus or minus, b squared minus 4 times a is negative, times c is positive, all over 2 times a. So pause the video if you need to. That looks pretty funky, right? Because of these decimals. But when you got the calculator, it becomes a pretty quick, as Annie's been saying, this becomes a quadratic formula. It becomes a pretty quick method. Definitely better than graphing on this one. Definitely better than graphing. So let's pause the video, and Annie's already got some calculations here for me. So this is 1 plus 0.024, which is going to be positive. So technically, there's how many solutions?
Those.
2, but I think one of them is going to be negative here in just a second. What do we get? This is negative 0.008. Okay, and then I'm going to wrap it back up here. Wrap back up here to the top. Now, if you could do the square root of 1.024.
That.
Yikes. Let's round to the nearest hundredth. Okay, let's round to the nearest hundredth. So that's the square root of that. So that's 1.01 over negative 0.008. All right, I'm going to need you again here in a second. So here's the next line of work. Annie plugged this into her calculator and got this funky decimal over this funky decimal. You got to use PEMDAS. You got to do the stuff underneath the square root symbol next. So she took the square root of 1.024, rounded to the nearest hundredth, and got 1.01. Now we got to use some logic here, right? Yeah. So we know the distance. We're trying to figure out how far from her foot did the ball land. So the distance can only be what kind of number?
Positive.
Positive. If the denominator is negative, we want this numerator to be negative, because a negative over a negative is a positive. That's right. So which of these symbols up here should we use? If we want the top to be negative, we want to use negative 1 minus, because I know you're not looking at the board, but a negative minus this number is going to give us something negative. If we had used the other symbol, the plus symbol, we'd get something slightly positive. So let's go and do that. So negative 1 minus 1.01, that's negative 2.01, over negative 0.008. And I should be using the approximately equal to symbol. What do we got here? 251.25, I think so. Negative 2.01 divided by negative 0.008. Yeah. And we'll just call this feet. I really didn't say what it was, I don't think. I think so. So there we go. Technically there's 2 solutions, but one of them would have produced a negative number, and we're not interested in that because we're doing a real life story problem with talking about kicking a ball, and its distance can only be positive. This is a good looking board. I'm just now taking note of this board. This is, gosh, that's something to like We should take a picture of this. I don't have a phone down here. That's just a good looking board. That's like good looking with like N apostrophe. That's dropping G's right there.
Yeah.
Dropping G's. That's my best attempt at rapping. Questions? If you got questions, email me. Because unfortunately, as much as we would all love to be back in school, we're learning from YouTube videos. So if you have questions, please make sure you email me. All right, let's watch the video. Let's watch the video. So Annie, explain to all the subscribers out there what kind of the setup was. What was the assignment? Who did you get to work with, and what were some of the parameters or some of the...
So the assignment was to create a rap or song describing the quadratic formula.
I like it, yeah.
What was the other question?
Did you get to choose who you worked with? Did you get to
Yeah.
choose the song, the tune,
Yeah. I worked with two of my friends, Lucy and Gracie, and we did it to Me by Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Do they still call her Tay Tay?
I don't know.
I don't know who they is, but
I don't know.
we can call her Tay Tay.
Sure.
All right. So are we just going to hold up the screen to the camera? And so this is the quadratic formula performed by Annie, Lucy, and Gracie to the tune of, what's the name of the song?
Me.
Me?
Yeah.
By Tay Tay. Here we go.
Right, let me see.
Enjoy.
I promise that nobody's gonna make it look this easy. I know that algebra is great and all, but I need a better way to solve. So come on and join me in this song. The quadratic formula. I know that I failed my latest test, and I really didn't do my best. But this person helped me with the rest, and she's the best teacher out there. One of these formulas is not like the others. Don't believe us.
Go ask your mothers.
When it comes to quadratics, I promise that nobody's gonna make it look this easy.
Hit that high note.
I could not.
The formula is all you need. Just plug
This is on Gracie's back porch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So every student got to choose their own song. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really quite effortless. Just wait for the chorus. And I promise that nobody's gonna make it look this easy. One of these formulas is not like the others. Don't believe us. Go ask your mothers. Students really don't know when to factor. I promise that quadratics will make it this easy. It makes nasty. What more can you ask of me? It's really quite effortless. Just wait for the chorus.
Oh,
There we
there
go.
it goes. Is
Wi-Fi.
it loading?
I don't know. Wi-Fi. Please hold.
It was probably...
Sure.
There you go.
299 views. Let's go.
Wait for the chorus. And I promise that nobody's gonna make it look this easy. One of these formulas is not like the others. Don't believe us. Go ask your mothers. Students really don't know when to factor. I promise that quadratics will make it this easy.
Tay Tay would be so proud.
It makes nasty. What more can you ask of me?
We did think about sending her this though. I don't
On,
know
like,
if they
Instagram
did
or-
it. Yeah.
Huh.
I don't know if they
Did
did
anyone
it
do
or
it?
not. I don't think so.
Wait for the chorus. And I promise that nobody's gonna make it look this easy. Quadratics is fun. And if you start with A to B, plus or minus square root of B, where is the 4AC? All over 2A, this and easy. If you start with A to B, plus or minus square root of B, where is the 4AC? All
Nice. Love it. That is so good.
That's it.
Great job, Annie, Gracie, and Lucy. Representing the Tay-Tay. So, that is the quadratic formula. That was fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for your help.
Welcome.
You're awesome. That is awesome. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah.
Good. Thanks again for sharing that video. And we are going to go eat some Mexican food. Some kind of like taco, nacho,
something. I don't know.
It smells really good.
Yeah.
If you have questions on the quadratic formula, shoot me an email. And I will probably be consulting my assistant here on assisting you with your question. But there's a Google Doc. If you can answer those questions, should we end with like a bonus question? Like, not that you're going to get bonus points, but just to see who actually made it to the end of the video here. So what could we ask them? How about this? How about if I asked you to come up with your own rap for the quadratic formula? What artist would you choose and what song? What artist and what song?
I don't know.
If you could do it again, who would you choose?
I have no idea. There's a lot of songs out there.
Who's your favorite artist?
I don't know. Who's yours?
Yeah, I would go. Gosh, that's a tough question. There's so many good ones. I think I can't narrow it down to one, so I'm going to pick two. I'm going to go with. I'm a big fan of rock and roll. I would go with John Bon Jovi, or this might throw you a little bit. Aerosmith. Love Aerosmith.
Okay, I got mine.
Okay, who would it be?
I like rock as well.
Uh-huh.
So I would choose probably Queen or
Nice.
Coldplay.
Ooh, both solid choices. Like it. So there you go. At the end of your Google Doc, nice big letters, big font. Tell me what artist you would choose and what song, and just see who made it to the end of this video. So hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you now know a lot more about the quadratic formula thanks to Annie's help than you did at the beginning of this video. Hope you're enjoying your time at home. Be kind to one another, especially your family. You're spending a lot of time with your family, I'm sure. Be kind to one another. I know this is not ideal situation. It's challenging times, but be kind. Be patient with one another. Everyone just needs a little extra patience. And above all, I know I say it every time I have this video, make sure you pray. Pray a lot. Pray for each other. Pray for health and healing and protection for all those first responders. And pray. Pray is the perfect form of peace, and it's going to help you carry through the day. So speaking of the day, hope you have a great day today. And if you have questions, shoot me an email. Annie, you're awesome. Thanks for your help. All right. Have a great day, guys.
Bye.